There are two historic homes tucked inside New Orleans' French Quarter that have both withstood the tests of time, surviving hurricanes, yellow fever outbreaks, and almost 2 centuries of constant change. Yet somehow they still look and feel remarkably similar to the way they did in the 1800s. And here's a bonus, both historic homes are completely decked out for Christmas. We're first stepping inside the Hermann-Grima House, an 1831 federal-style mansion decorated to reflect early Creole family traditions. Then we'll be exploring the Gallier House, built a few decades later and decorated in a more elaborate Victorian style for the holidays. 2 homes, decorated in 2 different eras, each sharing its own piece of New Orleans history. Hi, I'm Allie, and welcome back to Fab Little Dish, where we celebrate vintage homes, timeless design, and the stories that keep their history alive. This is the only channel where we take a deep dive into the design details that make these homes so unique and special. So make sure to hit subscribe and check out my other house tours on this channel, featuring historic homes across the country and then some. Make sure to also hit thumbs up if you love historic house tours and the stories that keep them alive. The Hermann-Grima House was built in 1831 for Samuel Hermann, an immigrant merchant who became one of the wealthiest cotton brokers in New Orleans. In 1844, the home was purchased by Felix Grima, a judge, attorney, and notary public, and the house stayed in the Grima family for nearly 80 years. Both families relied on enslaved labor to run the homes. Enslaved workers lived and worked right here on this property, cooking, cleaning, laundering, and keeping every part of daily life going. Their presence shaped how this home functioned, and labor made this lifestyle possible. What makes Hermann-Grima so special is how much has survived and been preserved. The house is almost entirely original, which means we're about to walk through rooms that look and feel incredibly close to what the Grimas saw every single day. And fun little film fact before we step inside, the interiors here were used in American Horror Story's The Coven. The exterior shots were filmed over at the Gallier House that we are going to be seeing next.
Excuse me, you can't just barge in on the tour without purchasing a ticket.
You're giving us a tour for free.
Free, of course.
If only. As soon as we step inside, you can feel that understated, elegant Creole approach to the holidays, much simpler than the Victorian style. This front parlor was the social heart of the home. It's where formal visiting occurred and where guests would have been received, especially during the holiday season. Families exchanged these calling cards as a way of announcing visits and relationships. But if a family didn't receive a return card the next Christmas, well, that was a very subtle way of ending a social connection. It's a little passive-aggressive, but it was considered perfectly polite in the 1800s. And notice the Christmas decor. Very simple, mostly fruit and greenery. This was the Creole Christmas before Victorian influence brought in the Christmas trees and the more elaborate decorations we see today. And if you look around the room, the furniture tells us a lot about the era too. These mahogany sofas and chairs are part of the American Empire style. Carved lines, rich wood, very classical in style. The black marble fireplace is another status symbol. Imported stone, everything feels formal and intentional here, but also very restrained. Elegant, but not overdone. And as we move into the next parlor, we'll start to see how the room begins to shift in both purpose and style. As we move into the back parlor, you'll notice the matching black marble fireplaces between the 2 parlors. This is intentional. In Creole townhouses, these twin parlors were designed as a pair, one for receiving guests, the other for more intimate family gatherings. The matching mantels help visually connect the 2 spaces. In 19th century New Orleans, the real celebration happened on New Year's Day. That's when families exchanged gifts, visited friends, and shared huge holiday meals. And tucked behind the curtains we see the china closet, and this placement isn't random. In Creole households, enslaved domestic workers handled all of the serving and clearing, and keeping the china right here allowed the family to be able to keep an eye on the fragile pieces and control access. It's a subtle detail, but it really reflects the everyday relationship between elegance and forced labor in this household. And just look at this spread. It's filled with foods that would have been part of a traditional Creole holiday table. This rolled chocolate log is an early form of a bouchée de Noël, a very French, very 19th century dessert. This orange peel nest with quail eggs is another traditional holiday sweet. Citrus was a luxury at the time, and giving oranges was a sign of prosperity and good fortune for the new year. And just off the front parlor, there's a small library, one of the quieter rooms in the house. This space held the family's books and a small writing desk that would have been used for reading, correspondence, or studying. From the front parlors, we head upstairs into the first family bedroom, and you can feel the house get a little more private. Then we step into this cooler, quieter bedroom with pale, serene walls and an amazing square canopy bed surrounded by sheer curtains. They were a life-saving measure, these curtains, to protect you from yellow fever that mosquitoes carried. And this room literally makes you stop in your tracks. Those drapes on the walls actually aren't fabric at all. They're French wallpaper designed to look like draped silk, part of a very chic Rococo revival trend. Paired with the carved rosewood furniture and Marie Antoinette aqua upholstery, this would have been seen as the peak of interior design trends of the time. This bedroom shows how styles changed later in the century. The furniture turns heavier, darker, and more Victorian, especially the armoire and carved bed. This is the original kitchen in the courtyard, because kitchens in Creole homes were never inside the main house. They didn't want the fire risk or the extra heat inside, especially during Louisiana summers. Here we are in an example of a slave's bedroom. The bed is plain, the mattress is thin, the storage is basically a small little table and a box at the foot of the bed. When you compare this to the blue bedroom we just saw, it really underlies how unequal life was inside the same walls. What's now the gift shop used to be the horse stables. These stalls are original, and they're one of the rare surviving urban stable structures in the French Quarter. Now we're walking a few blocks over in the French Quarter to the Gallier House. This was the home of architect James Gallier Jr., completed in 1860 right before the Civil War. He designed a lot of the major civic buildings here, in addition to this house for his wife and children. And because he was a leading architect in New Orleans, this house essentially became his showcase, a design portfolio of what was most fashionable when it came to homes at the time. And yes, as we mentioned earlier, this is the house they used as the exterior for the shots in American Horror Story, The Coven. The real Lalaurie mansion is just around the corner, which has held many owners throughout history, including Nicolas Cage. If those walls could talk, I'm sure we would hear a very dark story. But back to the Gallier House. One of the first things you notice here is the wrought iron entrance. Wrought iron is everywhere in New Orleans, something I love about this city, but the door is so special here because Gallier actually designed this iron pattern himself. Most homes bought their ironwork from catalogs, so you'll see repeating patterns throughout the city. Everyone pretty much had the same thing. Gallier wanted to stand out, so he came out with a signature design. This is one of the few truly custom iron patterns in the city. As far as Christmas decor, the Hermann-Grima House we just left interprets a Creole Christmas in the mid-1800s, very understated, mostly with greenery and fruits. But at the Gallier House, we step forward in time into the late 1800s, where Victorian Christmas decorating becomes more elaborate and looks a lot more like the holidays we know today. As soon as we step in, we see another double parlor to our right, where it's more formal in the front and cozier, more welcoming in the back. Right when we step in the front parlor, the room immediately tells us that we're not in the same era anymore. You can really feel that shift from the Creole mid-1800s we just left into a more Victorian, elegant vibe in the 1880s. This room is all about symmetry, status, and display. You have these incredible hand-carved plaster moldings, a long pair of floor-to-ceiling windows dressed in heavy Victorian drapery, and tall Versailles-style gold mirrors on each side of the room, which visually doubles the size of the room. That mirror-to-mirror effect continues across the doubled parlors. You'll see a mixture of European landscapes and classical busts that really was meant to say how worldly, traveled, and experienced this family is. The fireplace is another focal point. It's a black marble mantel with an ornate cast iron firebox, very fashionable in the 1870s to the 1880s. And on top, the museum keeps the Christmas decor very restrained here. Natural greenery, magnolia leaves, just a touch of holiday color. Your formal receiving room, you kept it elegant and restrained. And above the mantel is a portrait of Mrs. Gallier. Her portrait was intentionally placed here, front and center, where guests would immediately see it the moment they entered the home. Portraits were a form of presence, and for women especially, it communicated stability and refinement. In the rear parlor, everything feels a little softer and more lived in. This is where the family would actually gather, play music, and entertain close friends. You can also spot so many original Gallier family pieces still in place here. Furnishings, sculptures, even the piano, which is why this room feels so personal compared to the front parlor. And just look at that bust centered between the mirrors. That's James Gallier Jr. With all the classical sculptures surrounding him, he's very intentionally placing himself in the same visual language as classical figures he admired. Christmas becomes much more apparent in this room. We finally get a true Victorian tree with candles, little cones filled with sweets, and toys and dolls underneath, which is what you would have seen instead of wrapped presents. Between the draperies, the piano, and the tree, this feels like the heart of the season in the house. Still elegant, but warm, with a much more intimate vibe than the front parlor. At the top of the stairs, we see this narrow little study space, which is basically a landing, where James Gallier Jr. carved out an office for himself. This was Josephine Gallier's private bedroom and sitting area, and right away the room feels softer and more personal. The rose pattern wallpaper, warm textiles, and smaller scale furniture give it a very feminine, intimate feel compared to the public rooms downstairs. But you'll still see elegant details throughout, carved wood, rich fabrics, and little touches that show her true taste. This is the master bedroom, and from the moment you walk in, it feels more private and traditional. The patterns are more rich, the drapery is heavy, and the tall canopy bed immediately grabs your attention. That mosquito netting wasn't just decorative. It helped keep insects out while letting air move through the room, which was a necessity in 19th century New Orleans. The wallpaper you see here is a mid-19th century reproduction in a French-inspired pattern. This room is now depicted as a children's room. It's lighter, more playful. This bathroom was really incredible because indoor plumbing at the time was not common, even in wealthy homes in New Orleans. This small room is designed to interpret the space for Marie. Marie worked inside the house caring for the children, bathing them, dressing them, teaching daily routines, seen more as the mother than the actual mother of the household. And as proof, look at this photograph. Marie front center, holding the children that she spent her life raising. This space is extremely plain, bare walls, simple furniture, with just a few personal objects, which makes the contrast with the family's richly decorated rooms impossible to ignore. Now we're back downstairs, and tucked just under the staircase is something really special. A hand-painted scenic mural that wraps the walls like a little secret garden. These were inspired by luxury French panoramic wallpapers of the 1800s, the kind wealthy Creole families collected to show taste and refinement. Now we're stepping into the dining room, which is very much the social heart of the Gallier home. This is where private meals would be held with family and friends, and right away you can feel the shift into a more ceremonial space. Almost everything in here is original to the Gallier family. The marble fireplace, several of the dining chairs, the sideboards, and even the portrait hanging above the mantel. That's James Gallier Jr., of course. He oversees every meal in this house. This kitchen feels completely different from the rooms upstairs. It's functional, but busy and designed for work. We do see the original hearth, the cast iron stove, and even that big copper water heater. This is really where the real daily labor of the house took place. It's a true behind-the-scenes space, and such an important reminder that elaborate comfort upstairs depended entirely on hard work happening down here. As we leave the Gallier house, it's impossible not to feel that contrast. That contrast is very much part of these homes' histories. When you pair Gallier with the Hermann-Grima House, you really see two chapters of New Orleans history side by side. The quieter, earlier Creole world at Hermann-Grima, and the later, more ornate Victorian era here at Gallier. Even the Christmas traditions reflect that shift. simple greenery and New Year's customs in one home, and then fully decorated trees, gifts, and Victorian holiday charm in the other. If you love this step through the New Orleans French Quarter, Christmas style, make sure to hit thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed because we have multiple historic house tours each week leading up to Christmas as my little holiday gift to you. Until the next one, my friends, enjoy the season and keep celebrating the beauty of vintage home. Happy holidays.